6:30, and then the Caldwell area, you're looking at 6:31 when you could see some impacts from this storm. I'm going to zoom this out just a little bit more, because what you're going to notice is that the uptown of Charlotte, so uptown Charlotte and this areas along and south of I-85, you're not included in this tornado warning. This is going to be to the north, and we actually do have a live view from Lincolnton. So the storms have now moved east of Lincolnton, but we've gotten a lot of hail reports from these storms as they moved through Lincoln County, and there's the view right now. You can still see some rain. So rain is still trailing behind that line of severe storms that's capable of producing a tornado at this time, and it looks like it is radar indicated at this time. I'm not seeing ground confirmation on this, but there's the view right now behind it. So if you're in Lincolnton, your severe threat has come to an end, but now from Denver to Mount Holly, out towards Huntersville, northern portions of Charlotte, so the North Lake Mall, if you typically around that area around this time of night, these are areas that you're going to want to take shelter. So that is the view from the Lincolnton area. That is now just severe thunderstorm warned. That tornado warning is just off to your south, but we did want to give you that vantage point because we've gotten a lot of hail reports, certainly with that storm as it moved through portions of Lincoln County. So just in case you're tuning in, I want to give you another quick look at what we're dealing with here. We do have that tornado warning that has been issued for portions there of Mecklenburg County, really northern Mecklenburg County. We've got Gaston County, we've got Lincoln County. This is going to go until 6:45, and you can see on your screen there, this is going to be approaching the Mecklenburg County line here pretty shortly. We've got meteorologist Amy Sweezy with us as well, and Amy, I know that you've been looking at these storms as well. Do you have any updates on your end that you can pass along to us?
Well, I wanted to make sure that everybody just keeps in mind that this tornado watch is actually in effect until 10 o'clock tonight. And so with that watch, that means that these storms for the next several hours could be turning over here, or any of them could have those rotating winds in that you see in red that's under this watch until 10 o'clock. And basically what that means is that you need to watch out. Any of the storms could certainly have those storms in them. If we can switch over to the other computer, you'll be able to see that graphic about the tornado watch that's in effect until 10 p.m. You need to watch out. It means tornadoes are possible. You need to be prepared for a warning, which of course is what we have going on right now. And you need to stay tuned to WBTV as we continue through the evening. So these are the warnings that are in effect. The tornado warning that Rachel was talking about, of course, that goes until 6:45, but that's not the only game in town. We also still have these severe thunderstorm warnings that are in effect, and there are several of those up and down this line of storms with those winds at 40, 50, even up to 60 miles per hour, and of course the small hail as well. There's the track on there, and you can see some of the locations where the storm is headed as it moves very quickly. That whole line off to the east, headed to Huntersville at 6:26. So that's in about 10 minutes. Huntersville, if you are watching tonight, you should be in a safe place for the next 10 minutes until the threat of this storm passes by. Go into an interior room, a basement if you have one, Fishertown by 6:36, and then continuing to move east from there. So we'll be tracking this, of course. Zooming out a little bit bigger, a little wider perspective, if you will. Notice we're just kind of on the leading edge of this. This line of storms is impacting a lot of locations, and certainly they've had even worse weather to our south. When it moved through Alabama earlier today, we had some tornado warnings, and now of course we have a whole line of severe thunderstorm warnings that are up and down in Georgia and up through South Carolina, and now of course again that tornado warning that we're keeping an eye on there in the Charlotte area. So let me show you Futurecast real quick, and then I'll send things back over to Rachel. This shows the timing of these storms moving out, this whole line. Futurecast does a pretty good job with this. So throughout the next 45 minutes, this line of storms will continue to make its way to the east. 7 o'clock, we get to 8 o'clock tonight. The threat still exists. We still have a few of those storms in the area. Again, that tornado watch right now is in effect until 10 o'clock. We may see that go away a little bit earlier than 10 o'clock as these storms continue to weaken. But you can see that the rain will be with us. And then, of course, we're still expecting that colder air to come in behind these storms once we head into the overnight. All right, we're going to send things back over to Rachel now with an update on that tornado warning. Rachel?
Yeah, that's right. Especially if you're just now tuning in. This is going to be important to note because this does include a northern portion of Mecklenburg County. We've got Gaston counties and even southeastern portions of Lincoln County included in this tornado warning that's going to go until 6:45. So where this tornado warning was initially issued was out towards Stanley, and that's where we had some rotation noted. And that's now moving off towards the east of Stanley. So this is past east of 27, and this is going to be approaching 16 in between Lowesville and Mountain Island Lake. So I'm going to go ahead and switch this over back to velocity for you guys, and you can see that we've got that little kink there in the line, and this is where we're going to have that capability. This is still radar indicated. We don't have any ground confirmation. We don't have any observation on this just yet, but we do have that potential for a tornado right now over Sandy Ford Road, over Stanley Lucia Road, and this is going to be impacting, and correct me if I'm wrong, guys, Lucia, or is it Lucia? Do y'all happen in at Lucia? Okay, just making sure I'm saying that right. Bear with me, y'all. So that's going to be approaching Lucia out towards 16. 273 also runs out this way as well. Allison Ferry, Mountain Island Lake. In fact, I'm going to call out a couple of the community hotspots that you may know. We've got Snow Hill Church that's out ahead of this. That's the latest scan actually just came in, and it looks a little bit better to me. Still looks like we have some strong wind potential where you see those brighter shades of blue on your screen in between Lowesville and Lucia. Doesn't seem like we have as tight of rotation at this point, but still I want to make sure everyone is still in their safe place right now between Lowesville, Lucia, out towards Allison Ferry, and even out towards Hicks Crossroads, Mountain Island Lake. These areas still want to make sure that you are in your safe place, but it does look a little bit better there for us in terms of what we're seeing out towards velocity. I'm going to flip this back over to reflectivity real quick. Stand by with me as I do that. This is going to be a pretty strong line of storms. I think the thing to notice about this is that not only are we dealing with that threat for a brief tornado, and Amy was talking about this as well, but we could see some damaging wind gusts over 60 miles per hour. So think about tree damage, think about power lines down. In fact, as I look at the National Weather Service here, it looks like we have had some reports of a tree down at Hardin Road in Dallas, High Shoals Highway and High Shoals and C. So these storms have been capable of producing damage. We've also seen plenty of hail reports out of these as well. And zooming it out a little bit more, notice that we now have a new severe thunderstorm warning. So I'm going to clear everything off and just kind of walk you through what we have on the screen right now, what we have on the map. So there's our tornado watch. That goes for Statesville, Charlotte. You can see really along the I-77, I-85, and I-40 corridors. That's where we have the tornado watch until 10 o'clock tonight. Now I want to show you what warnings that we have in place, because we do have several warnings that are out there, and I'll go ahead and turn off reflectivity so you can just see that on your screen, that this entire line of storms has at least severe thunderstorm warnings. And of course we do have that tornado warning that does include portions of Gaston, Lincoln, and Mecklenburg counties, North Lake Mall, Huntersville, Cornelius. These are areas that you need to make sure you're taking shelter. Mountain Island Lake just to the east now of Stanley. And then we do also have some of these storms off to the south and west. So we're not done with this threat just yet. This is going to continue as we work our way towards the rest of the evening. So let's go ahead and look at that warning one more time for those of you just now tuning in. Where we're seeing this warning is going to go until 6:45. So we still have about 20 minutes left on this tornado warned storm. That includes Huntersville and Mount Holly and that Lake Norman area. Gaston, Lincoln, and Mecklenburg, and you'll notice on your screen there that's going to be radar indicated rotation. We don't have ground confirmation on that, but that's possible, and you know these happen so quickly, so I want us to make sure we're prepared for that, because even if one scan everything's looking fine, that next scan we could actually have a brief spin-up tornado take place. A little bit farther out towards the east, notice if you're listening in from Cabarrus County, you do have a severe thunderstorm warning in place. Iredell County, Davie County, Rowan counties, you have severe thunderstorm warnings in place as well until 7 o'clock tonight. Damaging wind gusts would be the main concern. However, like we're seeing right now in portions of Gaston, Lincoln, and Mecklenburg counties, any part of this line can really kink up, especially that bottom edge of it as it works off towards the east. So we want to make sure that even if you have a yellow polygon or a red polygon, want to make sure all of us are taking the necessary precautions. Surely don't be out driving in this. Make sure you're on the innermost part of your home, away from any windows, and the lowermost part of your home. That's going to be the best place to be as this moves through. So as I continue to take a look here at radar, I'll notice that this is getting closer and closer to the Mecklenburg County line at this point. Mountain Island Lake, hopefully you're already in your shelter. Go ahead and get there. If you're not, we do have that area of concern that's moving right over 16 as we speak. In fact, I'll flip this back over to velocity and kind of see how things are looking right now. You know, honestly, and I was saying this before, and I'll check in with Amy here in a second. I know she's getting some stuff together as well, but the last couple of scans haven't looked as impressive. You can honestly see it there. So I'm going to take it back to when they initially issued that warning, and I'll circle on your screen what I'm looking at. So that's the area of rotation. That's why they issued that tornado warning. And you watch that area through time, and you'll notice the last few scans, not as impressive in terms of rotation, but as I say that, we still do have some really strong winds that are going to be working right over the Mountain Island Lake area, right over that Gaston, Lincoln, and Mecklenburg County line, kind of where they all meet up. So Allison Ferry, Mountain Island Lake, down towards Neck Road, Stonewater Bay, Horseshoe Bend Beach Road. These are areas where we're going to have the worst of this. In fact, we do have a view for you guys from the Lake Norman camera, and it's going to give us a good idea of what it looks like out there right now. You could look at all of that lightning. So that in its own right, a reason to make sure that you are inside. Definitely don't want to make sure that we are out and about with that. With all of the lightning that we've been seeing and everything like that. So we've got meteorologist Amy Sweezy. She's been so kind to help us out from the Orlando area this week. And I know that it's her last day in Charlotte. And it's a busy day in Charlotte for you, Amy, but we are so glad to have you here with us and certainly to get your perspective on this as we continue to track some really strong storms.
Yeah, Rachel, this is kind of a common thing in the Orlando area in the afternoon where we get these spin-up tornadoes and we get severe thunderstorm warnings quite often, but not always in this time of year. So yes, I'm going to actually use Weather One, which is Rachel's computer. I'm letting the guys in the back know, and then I'm just going to walk in front of it here at the key, and Rachel's going to control it for me. We've got the tornado warning that is in effect. That's the red box that you see. I know there's so many colors on the map to keep track of, but we have the severe thunderstorm warnings in the yellow boxes. The severe thunderstorm warnings also, we've got winds at 60 miles per hour inside that line. So even if you're not in the area where we have the tornado warning that's in effect, you're still dealing with some really strong winds. And it's all moving so fast is the deal. So this is the track of where this line of storms is headed. Huntersville by 6:28. That's in 2 minutes from now. Headed to the airport at 6:34. No doubt if you are trying to fly somewhere tonight, you should probably call ahead. Perhaps you've already heard from your airline that your flight has been delayed. That is certainly a possibility because it's tough. My guess is that there's going to be some groundings here at the airport, at least for the interim, until this line completely passes by and makes its way to the east. You can see that we've got some other locations on the map here for you. 655 Mint Hill into Locust. And I know, I apologize since I'm visiting if I pronounce your town name incorrectly. I apologize. But these are moving. This whole line is moving so very fast to the east. That means, look at that. Watch this over time. That's over the last hour or two. And look how fast these storms are moving. 50, 60 miles per hour, which means think about with these storms moving in, just the movement, the forward movement and momentum of the storm alone is going to give you a 60 mile per hour wind. And that doesn't even include the winds that are inside the thunderstorm that then adds to that. And now you're talking about some pretty impressive winds. So we have had some damage reports or some storm reports, I should say, from this line as it's moved through. These are some of the locations. We, of course, had the tornadoes earlier today in parts of Alabama and parts of Georgia and also into South Carolina. And this whole line here, this is the leading edge. Look at all those yellow boxes. I mean, that is a lot of severe thunderstorm warnings that are in effect. And then, of course, our tornado warning that is goes until 6:45. So we've got 15 more minutes on this. And the thing is, the reason that it goes out until 6:45 is just because then the storm, this part of the storm, will be to the edge of this. If this doesn't weaken, we could see this tornado warning actually extended out to some other locations. So as of right now, we've got Mecklenburg County until 6:45. And as long as this storm holds together as it passes, we'll see that warning extended. But if it does fall apart, if the winds do start to weaken, if it appears that there's no rotation, it could be replaced by a severe thunderstorm warning, or the tornado warning would just be dropped altogether. And in fact, you can see some of this has been dropped already. If you have been with us for the last 15 minutes, when this was first issued, this red box was a little bit bigger. It went back farther, and now the back edge of this has dropped. So it's really just Huntersville. It's places out ahead of this line where we're seeing that potential. And where you see the greens and the reds come together, I know it's a little bit messy looking here on the radar, but where the green colors and the red colors come together, that's indication of the wind blowing toward the radar site and away from the radar site. And the brighter colors generally indicate the stronger winds. So when you start to see some really bright light, sort of, I know bright light, but the bright fluorescent looking green color, those are usually some pretty impressive winds. I'm guessing Rachel is zooming in on that. She might be taking a look and to see what those wind speeds are. Rachel, are you seeing any numbers there of how strong these winds are?
You read my mind. I was over there trying to find our little query tool, and you can see kind of 30, 40 mile per hour winds, at least at the radar beam level here.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, so that's pretty impressive. Now keep in mind that the radar, shoots out up at an angle, and so you're getting the winds clocked up a little bit higher in the atmosphere, not necessarily down at the surface, but some of those winds certainly heading back down to the surface. But the tornado warning doesn't necessarily just mean straight winds. The tornado warning means that the radar is indicating some twisting in the winds, which of course is something that is a concern as the storm moves very close. Look at that. There's North Lake Mall. And I'm guessing is that the leading edge there, Rachel, of the...
Yeah, we'll go ahead and put an updated ETA there for you.
There we go. That's perfect. Yeah, so that's the leading edge of those strongest winds that we're seeing, those 40, 50 at times 60 mile per hour winds moving into North Lake Mall in the next 3 minutes. And then, well, is that Joppler? Did I get it right? Shortly after that, so I apologize if I didn't pronounce that town right. But tornado warning until 6:45. I'm going to send things back over to Rachel and get an update now on what's going on in the Storm Center.
Yeah, absolutely. And something to keep in mind too is we've got a lot of interstates that are going to be impacted by this storm. So whether or not this storm is producing a tornado at this moment, which initially it looked like we could have had a brief spin up tornado, just the way things were looking on velocity as we were looking at the winds. We saw a little bit of rotation within that storm. Right now it doesn't look as impressive, and you'll notice they did not continue that tornado warning, but that severe thunderstorm warning now has been expanded to include University City, looking out towards Concord and Mount Pleasant. So damaging wind gusts are the main concern with this storm. But I want any one of you, and this is what Amy was talking about before, if you've got a severe thunderstorm warning in place, if you've got a tornado warning in place, I want you to move inside and away from windows, because these storms will be capable of downing trees. We could have some downed power lines. We'll have to check in and see if there's any power outages that have been produced from this storm as well. But we could also see those brief spin up tornadoes that don't last very long, but they pack a punch, and we want to make sure we're not out on the roadways or outside as those move through the area. And we do have some views of DOT cameras since we are getting pretty close to the interstates here, seeing some impacts. And if I heard my producer right, this is I-77, and this is out towards Tyvola, and you can see there's a lot of cars out there. This is prime time driving time, so it is 6:31 at night, and you can see how many cars are out there right now. So hopefully, if you're at home and you're watching us and you've got friends or family that are out and about, make sure that they know that there's a tornado warning in place, that we've got severe storms that are going to be working through, because not only do we have those severe concerns like the winds, like the tornado threat, the hail, but we also have really heavy rainfall. Visibility is really low, and that's what we heard from our own Ron Lee earlier. He was out towards the Lincoln County area and ended up seeing some pretty low visibility, in addition to that potential for some of those strong winds. I'm looking at the National Weather Service chat right now, not seeing any confirmation that we had a tornado, so that's the good news. I'm not seeing any of that, but we are continuing to get in some spotter reports of hail across portions of the area. So you can see this line just continues to work off towards the east. I do want to zoom in though and show you where, if we end up seeing a brief spin up tornado, the Mount Allen Lake area, you're not in the clear yet. I still want to make sure that you're in your safe place. I would not be getting on the north side of 485. That goes in between Mount Holly out towards the North Lake Mall, and then stretching up 77 running parallel to Lake Norman. I would go ahead and hold off on that. Certainly seek shelter if you're going to be out in the shopping area near North Lake Mall right now. Hicks Crossroads going to see some impacts. The Charlotte Motor Speedway, you are just beyond that tornado warning polygon, but certainly could see some severe winds. And if this storm is still capable of producing a brief tornado, that would also be a possibility for us. It looks like we just got an update in. So they have issued a new severe thunderstorm warning. This is going to go for Chester, Greenwood, Lawrence, and Union County. So let me zoom out. There's a lot going on right now. Let's just kind of break down, kind of start from the beginning here, show you all of the concerns that we have now that the time is 6:33. So we are just beyond 6:30. Let's reset a little bit. We have a tornado watch that encompasses a good portion of the area. We've got Statesville, we've got Charlotte, that's included in this, Lancaster County, Union County, you're included in this tornado watch. And there was some talk from the Storm Prediction Center that they actually may expand this a little bit more. So whether or not they do that, we'll pass that along to you. But all of us certainly need to make sure that we can hear those warnings. Now let's talk about some of those warnings that we have in place, and I'm going to go ahead and turn off radar so you can get a good view. And notice, as I mentioned before, really from Iredell County all the way down towards York County, we're going to have a severe thunderstorm warned storm moving through the area and eventually crossing over 85 and continuing off towards the east. So I-77, not the place to be right now, and I hate saying that given the time. I know it's 6:30, so a lot of people have plans around this time, but if you can hold off, I would, and make sure that you're letting your family and friends know that we've got this really strong line of storms that is moving through the area. Looking back at that tornado warning now, we're getting closer and closer here. It's 6:34. This tornado warning goes until 6:45. There's no ground confirmation on this, but this is a radar indicated tornado at this time. Rotation looked a little bit more impressive when they initially issued that tornado warning. Doesn't look as impressive now, but I still want us to be on our guard. And eventually we have that severe thunderstorm warning that's going to continue on even when this expires. That goes until 7:30, also includes northern portions of Mecklenburg County out towards York County and Gaston County. So I'm going to send things over to Amy, see if we have any updates on that. And I'm also going to be looking through some of our tower cameras, seeing if we can get some good views for you guys in terms of what we're seeing across the area. Amy?
Yeah, Rachel, that tornado warning goes for 10 more minutes. However, we have a tornado watch that lasts until 10 o'clock tonight. So the watch means that at any time between now and 10 o'clock, or when the watch is dropped, any of these storms that move through do have the potential for a tornado to form. So that's what the watch means. It basically is watch out. Tornadoes are possible, and obviously you need to prepare for a warning. We have the one warning that's in effect right now for Mecklenburg County for 10 more minutes. If it can hold together, and it does appear like there's still some rotation there, then that warning would be extended. But otherwise, that warning would be allowed to expire here in 10 minutes at 6:45. And you just need to stay tuned throughout the evening because Rachel and I will be here until the threat passes. All right, so right now, there's the tornado warning. Notice very small. It's been moved down a little bit. The threat has, the backside, the threat has gone, and so now it's just this front area that's just to the north of Charlotte, and then, or downtown. And then the severe thunderstorm warning, there are several of those that are in effect. There's some north of the tornado warning, there's some south of the tornado warning, and all of those where you see the yellow colors here, those have winds in them of at least 58 miles per hour or greater. The storms themselves are moving anywhere from 40, and we've seen some even moving up to 60 miles per hour. So along this line, some of them are moving a little bit faster than others, but the whole area making its way to the east over the next several hours. So the leading edge of this northern severe thunderstorm warning, that's just to the north of where the tornado warning is in effect, these storms moving to the east, and here's some of the locations where this is going to be. Salisbury, Lexington at 7:29, and then Thomasville at 7:49. So that's within the next 25 minutes or so. I'm sorry, that's within the next hour. So these storms, again, are just kind of making their way off to the east and will be with us through the evening. And then as you take a look at the tornado warning, this is the area here where we are continuing to watch very closely to see if we've got some rotation in there. So far, it's just been radar indicated, but moving over toward the Speedway by 6:54. So that's in about 20 minutes. If you live in any of these locations where this tornado warning is in effect, you should be inside, you should be away from doors and windows, you should be in a safe place, even if there isn't an actual tornado, because the radar indicates that there's some rotation. That means really at any time a tornado can come down out of the thunderstorm cloud that's building and growing, and it can touch the ground, and even just a brief little touchdown can do damage. So this is why we are making sure that we continue to warn you. I do want to show you quickly Futurecast before we go back over to Rachel to continue to track this tornado warning, because this will show the end time. We're monitoring this over the next half hour. This is 7 o'clock. By 8 o'clock, we're still dealing with these showers and storms in the region. Likely they will weaken as we get later in the night and they continue to pull to the east, but we'll still have a few downpours and certainly some gusty winds all the way through 8, 9 o'clock tonight. And then you can see on Futurecast here how it shows the storms just kind of slowly pushing there to the east by 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock, of course, course, is the time that the tornado watch right now is expected to expire. But if the storms do weaken before then, we would see that watch going away a little bit earlier. And then by 11 o'clock tonight, most of the rain is gone except for in the mountains. And then as the cold air starts coming in behind that cold front, which is what we're seeing move through now, that will change this rain over to snow in the mountains. And that's why we have those winter weather advisories that are in effect for tomorrow and also Saturday morning. So let's send things back over to Rachel now. You've been monitoring some of the cameras around the area and also looking at the radar.
Yeah, that's right. We've got Storm 3 out right now on 85 approaching Mecklenburg County, and a really good view as well. So let's go ahead and take that view, and certainly we've got some really heavy rainfall. And notice how there's a little bit of ponding on the roadways. You can see some of that water that's kicked up as those cars travel out there. The windshield wipers going really fast as well. You've got some flashers in the right lane. A couple of trucks and cars there got their flashers on. So this is definitely an opportunity for most. If you can avoid just getting out on the roadways, I would, because this is not only impacting 85, and that's where we are right here, showing you from Storm 3. This is I-85 moving into Mecklenburg County. Look how the wind is just moving all of the wind, the rain. Certainly windy out there as well. And more flashers as those cars continue to pass through. Be careful out there, and if you do have to get out on the roadways, but this is going to be a concern for 85. 485, 77, some of those big time highways as well that we look. I-77 stretching parallel to the Lake Norman region. And in fact, I was looking at Duke Energy outages, and it looks like there's about 600 customers without power out towards the area of Mooresville. So Mooresville saw a severe storm just move through, and just that's going to be moving into Kannapolis, eventually Salisbury if it holds together. You've got that severe thunderstorm warning as well. So there's a lot to track here on radar. We've got multiple severe thunderstorm warnings in place across the area that really stretch right through the central portions of our area, including the Charlotte Metro, with the only tornado warning right now that does include the North Lake Mall. This includes 485 on the north side of uptown Charlotte, and then we've got just to the south of Cornelius. So from Huntersville down towards the northern portions of Charlotte, zooming in a little bit closer, you've got 21 that runs in there, 115, there's Huntersville. The Caldwell community is going to be seeing some impacts from some strong gusty winds, and eventually Cox Mill, Poplar Tent, Harrisburg, University City, Concord, as this storm continues to progress off towards the east. Regardless of whether or not it produces any tornadoes, you're going to certainly see some really heavy rainfall, hear some rumbles of thunder, get some strong winds out of this as well. You've got the heaviest of rain that is just about to move out towards North Lake now. I do want to at least show you what we're seeing in the rest of Charlotte right now, just in case you're listening in and you're not within that tornado warning, but you are in about the Charlotte Metro. We do have some heavy rainfall that's now working along 485 and 85 where we just showed you from Storm 3. That will be approaching uptown Charlotte here shortly, and eventually 77. So the Charlotte Douglas International Airport up to about the Oakdale community, seeing the worst of the rainfall right now. And if I put a little timer on this, I'm going to track this out for you, take you through uptown, East Charlotte, Noda, Plaza Midwood, these types of communities and these areas. Here's when you can see some impacts. So certainly uptown Charlotte, 6:45 here. So in the next few minutes or so, and that's when that tornado warning is set to expire. South End by 6:45, Plaza Midwood by 6:48, East Charlotte by 6:51, Harrisburg by 6:53, and we've got Fars Mill by 6:55. So there's some updated ETAs, at least on that non-tornado warned portion of that line of storms. However, that is still severe thunderstorm warned. So no matter where you are across the Charlotte area, I want to make sure that we are inside and away from windows. I want to take you to our webcam now. This is actually towards the Ayersley Town Center, so it gives us that really good wide perspective, and you can get that big view on what we're seeing out there, and you can see the skyline there in the distance, and you can actually make it out. And then eventually it's a time-lapse view, and you can see how these storms roll overhead. We've lost visibility there. We've got some really heavy rain. We've got some gusty winds, and that's what's bringing impacts to the Charlotte Metro, and really prime part of the evening when a lot of people are typically out and about. We were just showing you some of those tower cameras, and I'll ask our producer if we still have that I-77 look at Tyvola, just to see how many cars are out on the roadways there, see what it looks like in another vantage point of the interstate. And there you go. You can see all of the traffic's moving very slowly right now. I've got a lot of rain out there. Visibility is low, so please avoid travel if you can. We're certainly still dealing with this very strong line of storms out there. I'm going to take you back to radar, in fact, just to show you what we have, the latest and greatest. You've got severe thunderstorm warnings that do include Salisbury. This extends down towards Cabarrus County and then even extending into portions of Mecklenburg County. And I do want to see the National Weather Service. And Amy, help me out if I'm wrong here. It looks like they may have, did they issue a new warning or anything? Let's see.
A tornado warning?
Or even a severe
Greenwood
thunderstorm
Lawrence
warning.
until 7.
Okay. Is that that may be off to the south?
That's the southern one.
Okay. Yeah, you know, there's been some storms. We were talking about this on air yesterday, how there could be some storms, especially in South Carolina, that could rotate. We've had a few cells out ahead of the main line. Those were tornado warned earlier. Not seeing that as much now. And let me go ahead and flip to a few radars here, get a bigger vantage point. Fortunately, those cells that are out ahead of the main line, I'll circle those for you, don't look as impressive as they once did, at least from this perspective, but we still have that really nasty line of storms out to the west of this. And we'll go ahead and look at velocity there as well and see if that storm south of Chester, been keeping a close eye on those storms just to the south of us. If those of you in South Carolina, to make sure that you are also taking your safety precautions.
And if they want to take the Max 2 weather computer, just real quick, I have both of the tornado warnings on there, so it just kind of gives you a big perspective. And you can see that the one warning for Mecklenburg County, that expires here in about a minute at 6:45, and then the one a little bit farther south, that one goes until 7 o'clock, and that's for Greenwood and Lawrence. So there's two separate areas here, one in the Charlotte area and then one just a little bit farther south.
Perfect. Thanks so much. That is super helpful just to get that big perspective, especially since there's just so much going on right now. Continuing to check in with the National Weather Service as well to see what the latest and greatest is in terms of where the warnings are, the updated times on those warnings as well. Let's see if we've got more hail reports coming in. We've had so many hail reports. Let's see here. If we've got any other updated look at this. Alrighty. Bear with me as I get that update. But we definitely, if anything, have those strong winds that are just about to approach I-77. So if you're listening in from York County, if you're listening in from Lancaster County, out towards the Van Wyck community, just north of Lancaster, out towards Weddington Matthews Indian Trail, you're going to have some strong winds with that line of storms pretty shortly here as well. In fact, I'll grab the radar a little bit closer to home. Did they go ahead and cancel that warning? Looks like that tornado warning that we first broke in on air for you, let you know immediately as the National Weather Service issued that warning, has since left to expire. We still do have multiple severe thunderstorm warnings. We've got that tornado watch. I'll take you back to the tornado watch. That tornado watch remains in effect for a good portion of our area, especially our central counties, until 10 o'clock tonight. If you haven't had the opportunity to grab our WBTV free First Alert weather app, we're going to continue to send updates there. We're going to cut in on air if needed. We've got the team here in-house, and of course we've got our anchors and reporters helping us out too to get an idea of what's going on with these storms out and about in your area. So please send your reports into us. Stay safe. Stay tuned. We got you covered through the rest of the night. Just stay weather aware. We're going to bring you back to regularly scheduled programming.